Welcome back to Previously Prohibited. I'm Jenin Eunice, here with my co-host Melissa Whitty. We are going to talk about some of the current events that are sort of big in the news right now. The biggest one, I think, is the Trump and Elon feud that has been quite dramatic. And
the total crash out.
Gotten the entire world's attention. We're going to talk about updates on Jeffrey Epstein and the House's newest resolution on anti-Semitism, saying that Free Palestine is anti-Semitic. And we'll probably end up talking about Gaza too, but we'll see. But first, before we start, over to you, Mel.
Yes, guys, welcome back. Thank you so much. I know you guys all liked our interview with Chris Brunet. I know the ladies liked it because I got several private messages talking about how cute he was, which I thought was hilarious.
I did too.
Yeah, it's so funny. It was really random.
Chris, if you're listening, take note.
Yep. Chris, you should just know you got some new fans out there. But yeah, so if you could like and subscribe, and our goal is to hit 500 subscribers on YouTube by the end of June. So we're pushing really hard for that. And we've got some really big guests coming up. We are super excited about that next week. So yeah, and we're going to try to host our first debate. It's going to be me debating someone. So, and Janine's going to moderate, who shall not be named yet. And hopefully I don't embarrass myself. No, I'll be fine.
She won't.
But and so, yeah, let's get into the biggest crash out ever, which was yesterday with Elon Musk. So
I was just sitting at my desk at work, and I looked at Twitter, and I see that Elon Musk accuses Trump of being in the Epstein files and saying that's why he hasn't released them.
Yep, let's hold on. We got to pull that bad boy up.
Of course.
Here we go. He says, time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. The real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day.
And for anybody who's been living in a cave for the past week or two, there has been bad blood because Elon criticized the big, beautiful bill that Donald Trump pushed. So it seems like things started that way, but I'm sure there's lots of stuff beneath the surface we don't know about.
Well, hold on real quick. Let me share this with you guys, because for anybody that didn't see, and if you're not on X or Truth Social, you might not have seen, is that here's the first tweet. So what preceded Trump's Elon's accusing Trump of being basically a pedophile, is Trump posted, Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do, and he just went crazy. So that was number one.
Oh, that preceded the...
preceded it. And then here's number two. It says, the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. So he tweets that, he posts those two things on True Social, and then about 20 minutes later, Elon comes and says, well, Trump's on is on the Epstein list. He's in the files, and that's why you're never going to see him. And it was a pretty big crash out.
Yeah, now some people are telling me I'm like an idiot for taking this seriously. I mean, seriously as in they're actually feuding. And, they're saying this is all a sideshow, which maybe it's a sideshow and that it's not really that important.
Yeah, it's definitely a sideshow
genocide
like that.
And stuff like that, and Palantir and those kinds of things. But I don't believe it's just a staged performance, because if I were in Trump's shoes, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, I'm going to have this performance where Elon Musk publicly accuses me of being a pedophile in front of the entire world. Who would agree to that? That's pretty much the worst thing you can be. I mean, maybe not anymore, since it's okay for Israel to kill children, so maybe it's now okay for people to rape children. I don't know, but...
I mean, certainly for some demons in our country, but for pretty much all normal people, that is the worst thing you could possibly be. And so for him to it's the same as the people who's like, no, the whole assassination thing was a setup. As if Trump would willingly let people shoot bullets at his head, And don't get me wrong, I think that everything about that assassination attempt is shady, and I think the investigation was a cover up. I have lots and lots of opinions on that, but I do believe that bullets were fired by someone, and that Trump was an unwilling participant in them, in this entire thing. And by the grace of God, his head was not blown off on national television, you know? By the grace of God. And so, people who are like, no, it's all a setup. I'm like, I don't believe that. If he had said something dumb, I don't know, maybe there was something else, but that was pretty much the worst thing that you could accuse a politician of being, is on Epstein's list, one of his clients. And I think he burned that bridge probably irreparably yesterday. And it was very bizarre because right after that, then Ian Miles Chong, if you're not on X, you probably don't know, and you're lucky. Be glad you don't know who that dysgenic freak is, but he's this little man that lives in Malaysia. I don't even think he's ever even been to the US, and he's like does nothing but comment on US politics. I despise him. In fact, I told people last night that if I could pick anyone to have a duel with, it would be him.
I picked Brianna Wu, but
I know, but I don't know. I would try to pick somebody that I think I could actually beat.
Well, that's true, since she's a man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But Ian Miles Chong is, he's pretty short and fat, and he breathes really heavy, so I just assume that he's naturally really, really out of shape. But so he then posts, and this was very, very bizarre. He posted, I pulled that up. Let me see, because I was like, what in the world? It actually kind of made me really nervous when he did this. He posted, I don't know if you saw this one. Ian Miles Chong said, President versus Elon, who wins? My money's on Elon. Trump should be impeached and JD Vance should replace him. And then Elon retweeted that and said yes. And so that made me very, very nervous, because that felt almost like coup-like, right? Because of course JD Vance is I'm not even gonna like go down that road, because we could talk about that for hours. But for those who don't know, he was kind of like Peter Thiel's protege. There's a lot of people who believe that these big tech oligarchs are trying to take over our government, and in a lot of ways they have taken over our government. And so when you've got this protege who came out of really relative obscurity from nowhere, and he gets, immediately he goes from being an anti-Trumper to a senator on the first round, and then 2 years later becomes the vice president. And now we've got this, out of the blue, bizarre thing where Elon is accusing Trump of being on the list. And then immediately this guy comes in and says, let's impeach him and replace him with JD Vance. And Elon's saying, yes, let's do it. That's, it just felt, and then a lot of people said, because apparently Elon has a little bit of a drug issue. He has a drug problem. He has an addiction to ketamine. I guess he it was weird. It was about 4 hours later, and he starts rolling everything back. But I just don't think there's any really coming back from that.
Do you think it's true that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files now? I think
if Trump were in the Epstein files, I think it could possibly be for a shady financial deal. I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibilities. But no, I just don't think that Donald Trump is a sexual predator. I've not seen anything. I feel like when people are sexual predators, that it's not like a one-off thing. We would see it elsewhere. He had that.
I don't know. I'm not saying it's okay for adult men to sleep with 16-year-old girls. Not at all okay. But you don't think that's I feel like that's, you don't necessarily have to be like a quintessential predator. It's really disgusting behavior. You don't think you could have done something like that? I don't know. I just don't see it. Because he doesn't drink alcohol. And he doesn't do drugs. And so I feel like if that were his thing, that there would be others, right? It wouldn't just be a just when I'm visiting Epstein Island thing, you know? He does seem to like his women kind of young, but more in their 20s.
Right. But I even think Melania was in her 30s when he met her.
Was she?
So, yeah, I believe so.
I think it was 20s, but... Well,
Yeah, I think
he
she's
he
like
might be right up
58
there.
now.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But it was like 20. Yeah, I guess you're right. She was probably like approaching 30,
Yeah.
at least.
So, I mean, he definitely likes younger women, but he's always, to me, he goes for, looks like kind of like these like supermodel types, you know, Marla
Yeah.
Mabel's really beautiful. And they're certainly, those are women. Those do not look like
Yeah, not like
girls
so,
by any
yeah.
means. Yeah. So I don't think that that's, I think Trump's weakness is power and money. That's his
Yeah.
vice, you know? And so if he would, in fact, have been vulnerable, it would have been in that area, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think so. And also, you know, everybody was saying if he was on the list, then it would have already been released by the Democrats, yada yada yada. And I think, well, that's not exactly true because the Democrats are on the list too, right?
Yeah.
It's more of a mutually assured destruction kind of thing. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But that leads us into the list. So, oh well, hold on real quick. So funny enough, Laura Loomer, who had a falling out with Elon, she lost her check during the H-1B wars, and then she got it back, and then all of a sudden she's like, Elon and her are like this, you know, after Trump takes office and whatnot. It was interesting because everybody was waiting for her to weigh in yesterday, right? And she ended up backing up Trump, but she said, she tweeted last night, Democrats are going to lose their mind when Elon is in the office, the Oval Office, while Trump signs the big, beautiful bill. And interestingly enough, all of the MAGA people in the replies were like, yeah, that's never going to happen. Basically, they're like, they hate Elon now, which is surprising. And which was interesting because they were all with Elon to begin with.
Yeah.
They were on Elon's side while Trump was attacking him.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he did that, it was like, holy crap. I don't really care either way, but
and then there was that was a real tweet, right? The one I sent you later.
No. Everybody
that was fake. I was
I
was like, wow, this is crazy.
Oh, I know. Yeah, no, Trump responded. He definitely de-escalated, which shows he is capable of de-escalating, right? He understands the value of it. So don't know why we can't de-escalate elsewhere in the world, Mr. President. You know,
maybe Elon called him and was like, I'm so sorry. I was in a cable.
Yeah, I know,
I don't know what a...
Well, apparently, according to Laura Trump, Trump won't take his phone calls. He tried. Elon tried, and Trump has no issue, which I don't blame him. You know? Yeah, no, that's you better do some serious apologizing before I will ever. And Trump is very forgiving. He is. I mean, you can see it. I mean, pretty much everybody around him has talked shit about him at one point or another. Lindsey Graham called him a sexual predator after the whole, grab him by the thing came out. So he can forgive people, but you better make it public. That apology. He's not gonna take it in private, that's for sure. Yeah. So, but moving on to Kash Patel, speaking of Epstein files. Kash Patel was on with Joe Rogan today, and we've gone from, we're going to release all the Epstein files to, and we're going to find out how Epstein really died, to Epstein really did kill himself. We've got a video showing it, or, basically proving that, to, there are really no bombshells in the in the files whatsoever. That is
and we're just supposed to take their word for it, right?
Yep, no files, nothing new. And at the same time he's doing that, Alan Dershowitz has now come out and says that Trump should pardon Ghislaine Maxwell because she was a victim of Jeffrey Epstein as well. Yeah. And how convenient that Jeffrey Epstein is just dead, right? So he's the only bad guy in this whole spiel, and everybody else was just a victim, which of course we know is total bullshit because Ghislaine Maxwell's father was Robert Maxwell. He was in fact an Israeli super spy who was likely murdered by the Mossad for his work, but he definitely worked for Mossad for decades, helped to steal their nuclear, other countries' nuclear secrets, and helped build Israel's nuclear program. And Ghislaine Maxwell also had ties to Mossad that we know of. And then Jeffrey Epstein as well. And pretty much everybody and their mother has said Epstein worked for a country in the Middle East. Epstein, of course, was Jewish. There's only one Jewish country in the Middle East. In fact, we are routinely told that Jews are apparently hated in all other countries in the Middle East. So what country would he be working for? And of course, we know he was running a blackmail scheme. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I don't think the pardon power was, meant to be used to make people unaccountable for trafficking minors.
Yeah.
So that seems like a bad recommendation. Alan Dershowitz is almost definitely in the Epstein files, so we know he doesn't want them coming out.
Oh, yeah. He was there. He was getting massages with his underwear on, we have been told. Yeah. It was totally normal to get massages from 16, 17-year-old girls when you're in your 60s and 70s. Oh. I know, just absolutely disgusting.
I hate that, man. I was like, my dad's had a handful of people that he despised beyond anyone else, and Alan Dershowitz was one of them.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Alan Dershowitz, Netanyahu, and a couple of others.
I know. I remember when I was, I wanted to be a lawyer, and I started reading his book, and I remember the first thing, it was like advice to young lawyers, and the first thing was always work more. He said, people will say, that when you look back on your life that you might regret, working too much. I can say this, that is false. I can say unequivocally that is false. In fact, if anything, you'll regret not working more. It's like, what? I remember thinking, this is really weird advice.
Maybe his definition of work is getting massages from a 16-year-old.
Right. Well, he was, in fact, Epstein's lawyer. So, I guess if my work was, well, no, actually, that's disgusting. Yeah. So Cash said that today he's getting dragged across the internet for it. I pointed out on my post or on my page that JP Morgan in November of 2023 paid out a $290 million settlement to 15 of Epstein's victims in a settlement because they were JP Morgan was sued by these victims saying that they knew about the sex trafficking, and that all of the transactions that Epstein engaged in were proof of that, and they should have raised lots of red flags, right? And of course, we know from that lawsuit, just a handful of depositions, that there were in fact JP Morgan executives who were ordering what we believe to be young girls. At one time, one sent a text message that said, "I really enjoyed Snow White. Can't wait to come back again." Epstein writes back something to the effect of, "Who would you like, or, what would you like to have experience next time?" He then, this executive writes back and says, "How about Beauty and the Beast?" So this is code for the kind of girls that they want, young girls, of course, using children's movies, characters and things like that. It's just
I'm sure
disgusting.
They were just talking about Disney movies.
Right. Just like they're always just talking about pizza in really weird, random ways, And so, so JP Morgan settles for $290 million, and the judge in that case, he actually said he had never seen a bank so eager to settle a case in a void trial. Wow. And of course, why? Because then all of the discovery, right? All of the bank transactions, all of the financial transactions, who was sending money to Epstein? Because we know that they were being paid as well, that he was being paid. So all of this is getting covered up. The FBI has this stuff. They have the files. And then you've got Kash Patel now coming out, totally gaslighting us and saying, no, there's no real bombshells. Well, then release the files if there's no bombshells. No thinking person could possibly buy this for a second, but I don't think we're ever going to get it. It's probably so shocking that they are if the American people learn about this, it'll cause a revolution, I mean, imagine if it comes out, and yes, I'm speculating. I try to be careful. I'm a lawyer. I'm talking as a person with common sense. Don't have proof, but, I think we have a lot of reason to believe that Jeffrey Epstein was working for Israel.
I mean, if that comes out that the United States government is complicit in covering up sex trafficking of minors in order to benefit ultimately Israel, that's not, that's going to cause a kind of civil unrest that they're understandably afraid of. Of course, they should still release the information if they had any sense of morality at all, but of course they don't have any sense of morality, so here we are.
Right. And this really goes back to the ways in which, because you think, well, number one, you have to remember who handled the Ghislaine Maxwell case. Well, that was James Comey's daughter. She handled that case, and she's also been assigned to, it's another really recent case. Don't quote me on that. Anyways, so that's, to me, was always really fishy that her father was the head of the FBI when Epstein was arrested, when he dies in their custody. Well, he wasn't in their custody, but he was in federal custody. And now Cash also says that some of the files have been destroyed, or what he says is they have likely been destroyed, So again, when were they destroyed? Under James Comey's tenure? And then his daughter turns around and she's the one that gets to try Ghislaine Maxwell. And then, of course, most of the files in that case are under seal. We don't get to see any of them. There was tons of stuff that she didn't present, and that was complained about. There were charges that she didn't file against Ghislaine, presumably because she didn't want to have to expose the men. Again, Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of sex trafficking to no one. Of trafficking children, and we don't have the clients that she trafficked to.
That is highly suspicious.
Right.
If they were like random people on the street, we would know their names, or we would have their names.
100%. Yeah.
It's because they're obviously influential people that,
Right. Yeah. I mean, we just get these, it's really kind of nutso to me, the cases with January 6th, you had like grandmas again, or you had just random dudes like construction workers and whatnot. They broke down their doors. They took, for one of these guys, they took a puzzle that he had done, like an actual puzzle of like the Capitol. And they said that he had done that for training purposes, like a freaking, like an actual puzzle, documented everything. They tore these people's lives apart, and they put it out there for the whole world to see. And it was like nothing. It was like a nothing burger, right? Yeah. And then flip the script, and now we've got an actual, a foreign intelligence honeypot scheme being ran on American politicians, American oligarchs, financiers, heads of major media corporations, all of these things. And we know nothing. We know nothing about any of it,
I mean, no wonder like trust in government is I don't know how you can really function like this as a society when people can't, when people have the sense that their government are actually like complicit in trafficking minors on behalf of a foreign country, or at least to,
Yeah. And then, you wonder all the time, like, how can what is happening in Gaza, how can it happen? Like, you and I, we talk about this all the time. How does it happen? How can they murder people by the tens of thousands like this? How can they starve an entire population? Real quick, shout out to Greta Thunberg. All right. Yeah. Freaking hell yeah, we're all rooting for you. But how can you do this, and our entire government is like, yes, we stand with Israel no matter what. Like, what the?
And now tweeting murder threats, basically, like Lindsey Graham saying, hope Greta and her friends can swim, like basically goading Israel to sink the flotilla. Like,
yeah. Why would they need to swim, Lindsey? Yeah, why would they need to swim?
I mean, why is a sitting U.S. senator trying to root against American citizens?
I don't think she's an American citizen. Yeah.
Oh, she's not. Okay. Other people on the thing are.
They are. Yeah. I know. And God bless her. She's like this rich kid.
I did forget she was Swedish, right?
Yeah. And I didn't know that she was rich, but her family apparently is very rich. But, and obviously I don't agree with her on the whole climate change thing.
I think she's annoying. Like,
Yeah, she is
I always
annoying,
find her annoying, but like, whatever. She's incredibly brave. I do not have the
Yeah.
guts to do that. Like,
Oh, I would do it. I would so do it in a heartbeat.
You really?
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah,
am not
I would
that
be like
brave.
on that. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't put it past Israel to kill them. Like, the idea that anyone, Westerners have any kind of protection or the amount of publicity it's getting, oh, they don't care. They know that they won't be held accountable no matter what happens. So,
yeah, I know. And I just found out today that Turkey wouldn't let them launch from their shores. And I thought, freaking Erdogan, like what a total fraud. Just shut up already. All of you Arab leaders, all you Muslim leaders, you are all frauds. Why is it left to just a hand, like this kind of ragtag bunch of kids, essentially, on a boat? Why is it left to them to float in humanitarian aid? It's such BS.
And obviously, it's basically symbolic because they can't.
They can't bring that much.
Yeah.
But, and it's like taking them forever. They've been out there for like a week now.
I know.
Yeah. Apparently, they must not have been able to launch from Cyprus either. So, yeah.
No.
But so Israel did attack the last flotilla boat. And so, God bless Greta. She hopped on it. So as soon as they went to launch the next one, she's like, I'm going. And she did it because she knows that if they attack this one, it's going to be a much bigger deal with her on it. So,
well, yes, that's true. So should we talk about Boulder and the resulting anti-Semitism resolutions?
Yes.
For people who, again, live in a cave, most people probably know, but just to center the conversation, there was an attack in Boulder, an Egyptian national, I believe, like threw a firebomb or Molotov cocktail on a, I guess, parade of people who were marching on behalf of the hostages in Gaza, the Jewish-Israeli hostages in Gaza. And some of them were burned. Nobody was killed. I didn't look at it in detail. I don't think anybody was even seriously injured, but people went to the hospital.
Yeah, they definitely went to the hospital,
Yeah, I don't know that anyone suffered, like, permanent disfigurement or anything. Supposedly one of the victims was a Holocaust survivor. She wasn't really, but she, left Europe before... the Nazis took over.
She never actually lived under Nazi rule at any point in her life.
If you use the term very loosely. I occasionally mention my grandfather, who was a German Jew who fled Nazi Germany in 1936, and people are always like, that's a Holocaust survivor. And I'm like, no, it's not. He did not survive the Holocaust. He was afraid of the rising anti-Semitism. That's why he left, but that's not a Holocaust survivor. So, not saying she, didn't experience anti-Semitism or bad things, but that's not my definition of Holocaust survivor. Anyway, predictably, the attack is being used to immediately. Many of the major figures on the pro-Israel right started saying this is proof that Free Palestine is anti-Semitic and the Free Palestine movement is terrorist. The guy said Free Palestine, I guess, as he threw the cocktail. Just like the incident in D.C., the shooting of the two people at the Israeli embassy, or was it the Israeli embassy or was it a Jewish museum?
It was the Holocaust Museum.
Right. Yeah. They worked at the Israeli embassy. Of course, being used to further crack down on free speech. So the House issued a resolution basically saying that Free Palestine is anti-Semitic. And is it? Did they say terrorist?
It's a terrorist slogan.
Terrorist, I honestly was so annoyed that I couldn't even read it. I read the first line and I was like, I can't do this. So these resolutions don't really have any binding effect, but they're obnoxious. And they're a waste of time. And we pay these people's salaries, and they should not be policing speech and telling us that things mean things that they don't mean. I'm sorry, but Free Palestine does not mean anything negative about Jews.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's I actually don't think that they're meaningless. I think that they definitely set a precedent. So now there's going to be, if it actually does pass, it's going up to a vote next week. And I know you didn't mean to say that.
Yeah, no,
like it's not
I don't think it's
legally
meaningless.
enforceable.
Yes, it's not legally enforceable now. I mean,
right.
Yeah, as you say, I think these things lay the groundwork to later make it legally enforceable, like by incorporating this kind of stuff in something like the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act.
Well, not even that. I think it informs policies for private companies, right? Nobody, if that gets deemed to be a terroristic slogan, then there will be things like, you go on Etsy and you can buy a T-shirt that says "Free Palestine" now. Will Etsy continue to sell "quote unquote" terroristic slogans on their website? Probably not. And things like that. If they're allowed to conflate or assign a different meaning or a certain meaning to this slogan and whatnot, and it's just meant to chill our speech, and these things are effective. That's the reason why they do it. So you have this new congressman out of Colorado. His name is Gabe Evans, and he's the one that introduced it. And it's also another way for them to get Democrats, of course, he's a Republican, to get Democrats on the record, because they're trying to embarrass them with donors, because, again, they don't give a shit about actually being effective lawmakers or anything like that. They're going to try. So it'll be very interesting to see who votes for it. Now, we know for sure Thomas Massey's not going to vote for it. We know for sure.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right. Yeah. On the right, it'll be interesting to see AOC, where she comes down. I don't think she'll vote for it. But I won't be surprised if. I don't think she will. I think she'll abstain. I don't think she'll vote against it. I think she will abstain.
That's so pathetic.
It's such a coward. They're so cowardly.
I mean, she wouldn't endorse the mayoral candidate for New York until she was put under immense pressure to do so, because he's very pro-Palestine.
And he's, it's so funny too, because he's still like so liberal about it. And he's like, I know. He's not even militant. He's like so careful with all of his things.
Well, look, I mean, if you're ascending to political office, like, I kind of don't blame him. It's Thomas
I agree.
Massey is a canary in the coal mine for being able to say the things that he says. I mean, I don't think that he said, because I don't think we've done an episode in a little while. I mean, he said last week that we should not be
we should stop
all military aid to Israel. There's no excuse for the number of civilians who've died. I don't think any Democrat has come out so blatantly. Just maybe
not Rashida Tlaib. She has not. Nope. She retweeted Massey.
Okay.
She retweeted him. She didn't even quote tweet him and say, "I agree."
Yeah. But the I mean, so the Free Press is going nuts because the mayoral candidate said he thought everyone in Israel should have equal rights. Like, it's kind of a bad look that you think that's a problem.
Right. And of course, he was asked specifically, do you think Israel has a right to exist as the Jewish state? And he said, I don't support ethnostates.
Yeah.
So he said, and that's when he said, so he was,
That's pretty big for a U.S. politician.
Oh, definitely. And again, I'm like, my position is Israel can exist however the hell it wants to, but if it wants to be the Jewish state, then the United States government shouldn't have anything to do with it, because the United States, that's, ethnostates are in fact antithetical to our founding principles. So if Jews want to have their own state, I don't actually care. A lot of people, I don't, who cares? We just shouldn't be funding it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, in any way, shape, or form.
I really hope he wins, even though it's probably the only issue I agree with him on. I mean, he's a socialist. I'm not a socialist. I'm a capitalist. But,
Yeah.
To me, this is the most urgent moral issue of our time. And also the fact that we send so much military aid to Israel is like financially. And I mean, I think it has also negative ripple effects, like not even directly in the financial assistance we're sending to Israel, but also like, other countries dealing with us and that kind of thing. So I think that the benefit will be so enormous if his views are
definitely it's gonna you've got 20% of New York City is Jewish, and it is going to send a real message, I believe, anyways.
Yeah.
Just to get that little bit, because you're right. I should give him more credit. His stance is one of the more radical stances
Yeah.
that to actually say that it shouldn't exist as the Jewish state, it should just exist as a democracy, is a pretty big deal. Yeah,
that is. I mean, also he shouldn't even have to answer this question because
I know, it's so
he's the
stupid.
mayor of New York City. So, like, maybe it's a question for the Secretary of Defense, I guess. At his confirmation hearing, but like. Well, yeah, it also, like, yes, it shouldn't even be. But it's, like, that much more ludicrous that this is a mayor of New York City. Like, I mean, that really shows you just how much this, I mean, to be careful.
Yeah.
But
no,
how this issue is infiltrated. Like, he basically is being forced to pledge allegiance to a foreign state in order to be mayor of New York City. That is insane.
Right.
Insane.
Yeah, well, he's not. It's not just that he is being forced to essentially, kind of. I don't know. I think it's when you specifically ask about, do you support the existence of a Jewish state? You're asking him, do you support this special status for this religion? And again, we're Americans, okay?
Yeah.
We actually don't. And people will say, well, what about all these Muslim majority countries? And again, if we are financially supporting them, if they can't support themselves, we definitely should cut them off. But that's the thing is with all these Muslim majority countries, they don't need our help, right? We actually kind of need them because they have all the oil.
Right.
So,
they also aren't, I mean, they are majority Muslim, and some of them have sort of, their laws and rules are informed by Islam, but they're not just for Muslims. Like, other people live in them.
Yeah, you can go live them. You're subjected to, of course, Sharia law, which is, of course, informed by the Quran.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, if you choose to go live there, be my guest. I don't want to live in a theocracy, period.
Well, and the other major difference is that Israel was created on a land where the majority of people at the time were not Jewish. So, if they had gone to some empty whatever, somewhere in Antarctica or whatever, and like set up their state there, that would be a different thing. It would have played out totally differently, obviously. Like, so maybe it wouldn't be as much of an issue, but the reality of the fact that you're creating a state for a certain group of people on a land that has a majority currently of another group of people is a huge problem. Like,
and you're also expanding your territory. You're pushing people out even more. You lay claim to an area of land that actually about 6 million people live in. To include all of the West Bank and Gaza, and then of course that doesn't even count the Greater Israel project that people say, oh, well, that's just nothing. Well, no, you've got something. I think the last survey I saw said 25% of Israeli Jews believe that all of the Golan Heights, all the way to they want the Greater Israel project, right? So they want to go all the way to the Euphrates in Iraq, and then I believe, I always get that confused, all the way down into Sinai, right? It's a huge spot of land, and people will say, well, that's crazy. They're insane. And I'm like, well, I actually used to think that the idea of bombing 2 million people in a concentration camp was crazy too, and yet they've been able to do that. So I don't put anything past these people now, and we have to shut it down.
Yeah, the only lesson they've got is that they can get away with really anything. Like, I mean, shocking. Like, and so I've ended up blocking so many people on Twitter, and I've created a little bit of an echo chamber for myself, I guess. But occasionally I try to like see what they're saying. And they are, the lines are just that it's all made up. So that's all you can, there's no starvation. The denial about Piers Morgan talking about when he confronted this Israel, she claimed to be a British lawyer. British Lawyers for Israel, whatever that means. She claimed that, the airstrike that hit the home of 2 doctors with 10 children, 9 of whom were killed in the airstrike. I think it was 8 of 9 or 9 of 10.
9 of 10.
Yeah, were killed. That might have been made up, which is just like, the amount of documentation of this murder
Yeah.
is overwhelming.
Yeah, we literally have the videos of them pulling the children
Yeah.
out of the rubble. And then, of course, the husband was also killed because she tried to say, well, the parents haven't confirmed that. And it's like, well, that's because one of the parents was in the hospital and then
And
he
now
died.
he's dead.
Yeah. So
yeah. And I saw a lot of people I knew from the COVID era commenting on on his thing, supporting her and saying, there's no evidence. I mean, if you live in denial this extreme,
Right, yeah.
I don't.
You're not missing
like-
anything by blocking those people.
Yeah,
This is
no.
what I found. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's crazy town, but that's the
Yeah.
world they live in.
Well, I mean, they have to. I guess we should maybe take a little bit of I don't want to say hope from that, but if they aren't, because there are people who actually they're all like they're great. They think this is wonderful and
Yeah.
they want more of it. So I guess if you have to lie to yourself and just say it's all fake, then maybe you still have just a sliver
Maybe
of
a
a
little
conscience.
bit of a soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, on the other hand, if you're willing to disregard vast amounts of evidence in order to protect your favorite ethno state,
Right.
then like I don't really. It's all
So
kind
crazy.
of, and I mean, at least the ones who just openly champion genocide and murder of children, they're showing who they are. Like, I think
Yeah.
the other ones actually are the same. They just know it's strategically not as smart. So I think the like
Right.
pretending not to believe they might know it's
Yeah.
true, but they understand that that's a more clever strategy in terms of getting
yeah.
support from.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we will see. So hopefully next week, I'm very interested to see who votes for this bill. It is
to the resolution.
the Free Palestine thing,
Yeah.
because that's quite a step. I mean, I thought
Yeah.
that from the river to the sea, them trying to say that, I thought
Yeah.
that was such a far reach. It was so
Yeah.
stupid. I didn't think that they could possibly get any dumber. And then,
I mean, it's
somebody
totally
said, hold my
Orwellian.
beer.
They're
Yeah.
just like, this phrase means something that it doesn't mean.
Right,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
but that's not how words work. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean,
Oh, I know.
I assume everybody listening probably, has already thought of this, but just in case, like, just the fact that somebody says something when they do a bad act doesn't then mean that the phrase, like, that is such an
Right.
insane level to take things. And
Yeah.
like this ridiculous guilt by association, it's like completely crazy to say that, well, someone said free Palestine and murdered someone, so therefore everyone else who says free Palestine means they want to murder someone. Huh? That doesn't make any
Right.
sense. What kind of like kindergarten logic is that? I mean, frankly, when I was a kindergartner, I would have understood that was illogical.
Yeah, no, and people really need to think about the precedent that something like this could set, right? Because again, everybody keeps saying like, "Oh, why? I'm just so sick of this. I'm sick of hearing about it." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sick of hearing about it too. I wish that they would stop bombing babies,
Yeah.
and I wish that we were just focusing on domestic things because we weren't funding a genocide." But when we can't stop talking about it because our Congress literally is obsessed with it, right? Like, I mean. Every single day they are pushing some kind of policy, and it seems to be the only thing that Republicans can actually get frickin' done is in servitude to a foreign nation.
Yeah.
Um,
It's utterly ridiculous. I mean, I don't want my Congress to be sitting around telling me that phrases and words mean things that they don't. Imagine if during COVID, like, the Democrats sat around being like, if you say, I don't want to get the vaccine, that means you're a domestic terrorist. Like, what?
well, they did say that.
Well, they didn't
and
make resolutions,
yeah.
though. did they?
No, they
Yeah.
didn't. But they did say that in Republicans
yeah.
rightfully called it psychotic
Oh, yeah.
because
No, I
it
know.
is. Yeah.
But yeah, it's the equivalent. And now, I mean, the lack of principle from all of these people
Yeah.
is just despicable. But anyway, I think we should
So-
wrap it up. I have a cold, so I apologize for having to blow my nose through.
No.
But we will be back next week, and we have some great guests.
Yes.
We are not going to
Yeah.
give away their names yet, but
Yes.
I promise
Yeah.
you they will be exciting.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.